Missouri House is really going to be about families. We are going to put Missouri families first and try to make legislation that makes life safer, better, and more affordable for Missouri families. I thought it was a great ceremony. Really appreciate the work of our new majority leader, Alex Riley, and our pro tem Chad Perkins. We're going to celebrate today, and then next week really get to work and get started. So I'm happy to take any questions, and if you want to talk with Alex or Chad, I'm happy to have that talk with you.
Speaker, do you have some business to tend to that was left behind by the former speaker, like the pay raise issue, paying some bills, things like that?
I believe there are some housekeeping issues that we'll take care of right away.
It seems like my memory might be a little bit better. As you originally said, you were wanting to whatever the voters say.
I said we respect the will of the voters. If you read Amendment 3, the words regulate abortion after fetal viability are within the text of that amendment. So I think it's incumbent upon us to do that. I think one of the first things as a physician, what I look at is what do they mean by fetal viability. That's one thing that we could look at and have a debate.
What about minimum wage? We're hearing that they want to put it in front of the Supreme Court. Does that have any sort of movement here, repealing that, or conversation? Where does that proposition fall?
Well, again, we respect the will of the voters. I think there's legislation out there that would delay implementation of sick leave. I am not in favor of that. I have not heard anybody talk about repeal seriously. I think we may take a look at some of the provisions, but I have not heard a serious discussion about repeal, and I don't favor delaying the implementation of the sick leave.
Will any regulations on transgender healthcare gain traction this year? Do you expect that to be a big issue?
I don't expect it to be a big issue. I will tell you that the House Republican Conference, when we met and discussed our priorities, one of the things that they really wanted to address was the sunset on the transgender bill that we passed, I think 2 years ago. And that will be a priority. I think that is legislation that's new. It's a priority for membership, and so I will prioritize that.
To clarify, to extend the sunset or to get
To
rid of
repeal
it?
it.
Obviously, Rosalynn Sparks' challenge to the speakership fails today, but just the fact that this challenge happened at all, and he said that it was related to comments about Amendment 3, does that sort of signal to you that like leadership is going to be under pressure to do something about Amendment 3 that's happening?
No, this was not about Amendment 3 or any policy agenda. This was a person with an oceanic ego who took it upon himself to make this day about himself. It really was very disappointing. We had the election. I think it was nothing. I will tell you in the past, if you read upon the history of Missouri, oftentimes speakers would not vote for themselves. A lot of times they would vote for the other person, a sign of magnanimity. There was none of that from that gentleman. I respect him as a person. I respect a lot of the people that came to the Capitol to peacefully express their views. I think that's actually a great thing, but that was not about any policy.
What do you make of the fact that most of the votes, of the 9 votes, that most of them were freshmen?
Well, I think, number one, I was very honored and humbled to receive the votes of every single Democrat. That, I think, is historic, and I'm humbled by that. I really appreciate my colleagues on the other side of the Again, we elect our speaker a year in advance, and we know the rules of the game. We have an election. And then when someone changes the rules and says, well, I'm going to go talk with people, do this behind people's backs, it's very disappointing. But I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about all of our members, all of the new members that we have, all the things that they're going to do for their constituents. It was really a great day, and that was just a very small footnote in today's
Will those members who voted for the other guy be punished in any way in terms of committee assignments, office assignments, bills on the floor?
I just don't have the time and energy to do the moving offices and parking spaces. We've got a lot of work that we want to do. We've got great things. We've got a new governor. We've got the World Cup coming. We just don't. It's not something.
We've heard,
You said you wanted to increase funding for children's mental health.
Yes.
There's been some discussion that revenues are flat and that there may be a need, people are mentioning budget cuts. We also have a large surplus. Do you see a real need, significant cuts in state spending from, say, the general revenue fund?
I see a need for us to be very cautious as we move forward on things like that. And one of the things that we want to pursue are tax cuts, but we want to do them and make sure that we do that in a smart way. Keep in mind that the revenue won't be as good in the future, and we could have
And follow up, are you at all interested in pursuing Senator O'Loughlin's ideas of eliminating the highway commission or going to direct election of judges?
I have a lot of respect for Senator Laughlin. We meet quite frequently. I think she has some great ideas. I'm very willing to discuss those ideas.
One of the other things Senator O'Loughlin mentioned in her speech was a belief that the child welfare system has failed. She told me last year that the Children's Division needs a complete reboot, which would include significantly paying investigators more. Will that be part of the House agenda too?
I think it's something that we'll definitely look at. We have discussed in the past. And I will tell you, I drove down here yesterday and had a 30-minute conversation with the So it is something in the front of my mind. It's something that we should definitely look at.
have you started working? Mine was going to be about the supplemental budget. Has it been a discussion yet? When could we start to see that start to move forward? Committee about that and how big it could possibly be?
Well, we will have committees next week, and then again, I met with Governor Tito and Senator Laughlin this morning, discussed that in the meeting with the governor, the House Leadership, the budget chair. So we will start those soon, and I think we'll know next month what that's going to look like.
Were there any discussions amongst Republicans that was about the possibility of trying to legislate at a certain amount of weeks for every pregnancy across the state?
I think that's one of the questions that we have to ask. What I'll tell you is, if you took 10 doctors and lined them up and said, what is the definition of fetal viability? I think you'd get 10 different answers. I think our citizens deserve to know what these are, and I think that's the way we're.
Isn't fetal viability defined specifically in Amendment 3 as when a physician determines that a fetus could survive outside of the womb without, yeah, it is defined. So
What is the definition of exposure measure, ventilator, it's written in such a way that I think there are so many questions to it. I think addressing it and regulating it, as the amendment says, I think is appropriate for the General Assembly.
If I could follow up just briefly, is this something that Republicans would look at as a case-by-case basis for each pregnancy? Or is this a type of regulation that would be a broad regulation that we're looking at for every pregnancy? Whereas you can set it at, say, 21 weeks, for example, instead of each pregnancy. How are you guys interpreting that?
Well, one of the things is, I've discussed that discussion with the Senate and the House, and I don't think anybody has. And so what I suggested is that we in the House are going to get together and discuss this and have people from different parts of the state and get those answers and then move forward and look at the Senate and see what we can do in this area of legislation.
Does that mean by doing that the biggest thing that we hear from the other side is that by doing anything to Amendment 3, you'd be taking away the voice of the voters? Can you talk about that at all? By you defining this, or you wanting to defining this, does that actually take away what voters approved?
Well, I really don't think so. One is, for one thing, I haven't heard anyone seriously discuss taking away the rape and incest exception. Two, to regulate it as the amendment asks us to do, I think is an appropriate thing to do. And then, to your point, the changing it does have to go back to the will of the voters. And so I think that is a safeguard that people have. And I think, given those things, people can be confident that what happens does reflect the consensus and compromise among others.
For the first time in 6 years, we will be doing with the new governor, with Mike Kehoe, and his number one priority is a wide-ranging public safety bill. You mentioned public safety in your speech. What are some of the specifics you want to see? I know a lot of focus is on the Control of St. Louis Police Department, but what beyond that do you want to see?
Well, I think as someone that lives in Kansas City, if you talk with the police, they're down anywhere from 150 to 200 police officers. Up in St. Louis, it's about the same. From my standpoint, one of the best things we could do is to have legislation that will help us recruit and retain those police officers. I know that Representative Brad Kretz has a bill that can help with that. I expect we'll see multiple pieces of legislation out there that they will move, and then we'll try to get it into a package. That's something, again, the governor reiterated this morning that he wants to do. Senator Laughlin and I both agree. I think public safety is the number one priority in this country.
Last year, you said that. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
What kind of legislation should the people of Kansas City expect with the speaker from Jackson, even a minority leader from?
What kind of legislation overall?
Yeah, like bills and what is that sort of money?
Well, I think, again, in Jackson County, public safety is a priority. So all of those pieces of legislation will be relevant to people in Jackson County and Kansas City. And then I think maybe from a budget standpoint, I mentioned the great thing is the judge in Kansas City. I hope that Kansas City and Jackson County will get a fair shot in the budget. I think the things that are good for Jackson County and Kansas City are generally good for the city.
What stadium?
That's something that we just have to keep working on. It's I think the thing that makes it hard is, you can't have a pelvic fracture in just one place. It breaks in one, it breaks in another. And with Royals and the Chiefs, you can't move one without the other. So it's kind of like that. And that is what makes it unique. And I think that's unique. I haven't heard of any other places around the country that have had that issue with trying to keep close teams. Would you like that?
I was going to ask how many times we're going to medical.
Yeah.
Last year, you said that the House was not going to consider then Representative Schnelting's bill on allowing guns on public transit. I know he's now a senator, but is that something that you still stand by for this coming session?
No. Protecting the Second Amendment, making sure that there is absolutely no erosion of our Second Amendment rights is a priority for House Republicans. It will remain a House priority. And so you will see that legislation again. I expect, given the Senator Schnelting is so passionate about that subject, that we might see a Senate bill over here, but I expect House members will file similar bills to support that legislation. House Republicans prioritize it. So again, that's something that we're fighting. I think protecting our farmland and our food supply is always a priority. Although I will say I haven't heard it as much this year, but if need be, we will fight it. Do you have any questions for our floor leader?
We have a floor question. A lot of talk nationally about immigration. Do you see the Missouri legislature playing a role in that conversation, and if so, any bills moving related to that?
I suspect we do have some members who will be filing legislation. I haven't personally seen that yet. I do suspect that with the change in leadership at the federal level, with probably a heightened interest there in immigration and illegal immigration issues, that may move into more of the federal realm. But if there are things that we can do at the state level to support federal enforcement efforts on reducing illegal immigration, that's something that House Republicans are willing and interested to be a part of.
The House was late last year making the budget out over the Senate. Because there was some crunch time at the end. The budget was not the process we're used to. Do you think we get the budget to the Senate before spring break?
I mean, it's always the hope to move legislation as quickly as we can. I think think that with we have a new administration coming in, there's going to be new folks that are involved in the process. I do expect it's going to take everybody a little bit of time to get acclimated to their new roles. So trying to balance that with the need to move the budget at the right pace through the process where we're able to have those appropriate deliberations, meaningful conversation between the House, between the Senate, between the executive branch. We want to do all of those things. We want this to be a more normal process. But at the same time, new administration, lots of turnover. So it's gonna take a minute for everyone to get situated and ready to move these things up there.
With new committees, membership, all that, when do you expect legislation to start being debated on the House floor?
So what we are currently doing is we are trying to position ourselves to move as quickly as possible. So later this week, we're going to be having the rules package go through committee, hopefully voted out of committee later this week as well. That would then position us to take up the rules and debate them on the floor very early next week. Obviously Monday with the governor's inauguration, we won't be doing much substantive work on the floor, but hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday next week we'll be able to take up those rules on the floor, pass them, get those done, and then right away after we're able to do that, then the speaker will be able to start making his committee announcements and start referring bills, and I would then anticipate that we're going to have our committees rolling and moving legislation very quickly.
Would there be proposed rule changes to emphasize being into the House committees and leadership? That was a topic of debate last year.
So no one has brought to me any language. Haven't had any member, haven't had anyone bring any language to me along those lines. So it could be a topic of conversation. We're still having plenty of internal discussions about what we want our rules package to be, but so far I have not seen it.
Speaker Patterson, last year you mentioned possibly shortening debate to questions as far as a rules package change. I know you mentioned that last year. That's something on your mind?
No, well, I would like to see more people get to speak rather than fewer. I think that we are not going to change the initially debatable. I think we would like to discuss maybe shortening the time on the third week so that more people can talk. One of the things we could do, and then and help retain being a police officer is work that I'm not sure that I could ever do. So we want to make sure that the incentives are on the front lines.
Are we gonna see you weekly?
I will. I want to make sure that people out there get to see what we're doing and we'll have to talk with you. I think we had a good relationship last year. And happy to
Are Floor Leader Riley going to do weekly meetings as well?
I mean, if that's something that is of interest to folks,
Yes.
I try and make myself as available to the press as I can. I've done that throughout my 4 years in the House. I don't see any reason to change that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.